Hello, everybody, and welcome to Emergency Encounters. I am Colleen, and I'm here with the beautiful Cam and everybody's secret CIA spy, Dirty Birdie. Haha. And we have a guest coming on. He's just logging into the studio. Hey, and we have Midnight Lycanthropy. How you doing tonight, Kenny?
I am good. My computer, my good old Chromebook here is spazzing out. I'm trying to close down my Skype here so that it will not go bananas. But how are you doing?
We were just talking about that. Yeah, in order to stream live, and you've got to keep all the tabs closed because it takes so much bandwidth. So it's kind of hard. But anyway,
Yes, it's
we have
brutal.
really exciting news. We have the farm cam up and running, guys. So make sure that I'm not going to have it running 24/7 because I have one laptop, and that's how I'm when we do the shows and when I'm on the laptop, it's kind of hard to stream everything. But so right after the show, I'll put it right back up again and everybody can check it out. So um
How long are you going to run it for? Are you going to run it in the morning and then stop it at dusk, or?
running probably mostly during the day. Tonight I want to test it and see if let it run overnight and see what happens. It has a really good IR camera sensor on it, so it should have a fairly decent view. We'll see. I also want to see if people actually see anything paranormal because there's a lot of stuff that goes on out here. So it'll be really interesting. But anyway, we're not all about the farm cam. We are here with our guest tonight with Midnight Lycanthropy. And we wanted to talk about all things Dogman with you and talk about how you got started down this path.
Wow, that's a deep question right there for sure. And first off, I just wanted to say thanks for having me. Dirty, what's up, my friend? And Colleen, of course. And who is our other host here, my friend?
Well, my name is Cami.
It's good to see you.
Cam.
Cammy, what's up? Sorry, my thing is still lagging out.
You're
Yeah, and the static that we hear on our stage when we're talking, they don't hear in the audience and they don't hear it on the recorded view when they go back and look at it. So it's just a weirdness of StreamYard that we can't seem to fix. But yeah, so how'd you get going down this path?
Excellent right there. Now it's finally starting to log around here. Jeez. I have pretty much, just been interested in anything that's bizarre since I was 11 teen back in high school. And now I can see everyone. I do apologize about that, Cammy, because I could hear Kelly and Colleen, but my Chromebook was screaming, please stop, because it's like 12 years old here, but I am using my phone for other stuff. Either way, though, always kind of, just like any other 11-year-old, thought dinosaurs and sharks were of interest. And not that leads everyone down, the paranormal or cryptid realm. I'm not really too much into paranormal per se. I do think that Sasquatch was pretty cool back in the day, but now, as I've told Colleen and Dirty before, it's so well covered that it's pretty much been proven. Now they just got to figure out, is it extraterrestrial? Is it paranormal based? Is it, ancient human beings like Neanderthals? Is it primate? All those are questions that still need to be answered. So I don't really find that to be interesting anymore, to be quite honest with you. Not that I wouldn't still listen, but I skip over almost everything that is Bigfoot and Sasquatch based these days.
Boo.
Just really doesn't appeal to me too much. I find myself really paying attention a lot to the missing people near the cave systems and the national forests. I find myself really intrigued and fascinated by these strange vocalizations, also tracks that specialists such as yourselves can't verify. And then I would say my little sister interest would be the Jabba Fofi, which is something that I've been covering over on Camp Nightmare Fuel, which is, yes, my sister podcast that I have. And that is the gargantuous spider that I've sent to both you and Dirty from the Congolese aspect. Find that super appealing. And then, honestly, again, anything else really outside of that, I don't find myself diving into it. I find myself paying attention to a lot of the nerd out stuff with like Extinct Zoo and Forest Galanti, all the stuff I'm always sending you, Colleen. I mean, anything that, whether it's great white sharks being found in Lake Michigan or anything that's scientific based. Don't get me wrong, I've been nerding out with some True Blood, here or there, which is not educational whatsoever. I mean, it does help with, I guess, my vampire appeal. Yeah, it's not something I try to waste time on. 95% of the time, whatever's on my TV is educational, even if it's true crime stuff. I mean, you're learning about how things occurred, how to handle it, how messed up people are, or like I said, nature, I don't know. So those are things that really grab my attention. But obviously, working with people such as yourself and the rest of my science team, there's a lot of individuals I work with that take interest into a lot of different cryptids or paranormal or extraterrestrial stuff, which is excellent because then I'm also able to hear basically things I'm potentially missing by not expanding or putting the effort to search for it, but I don't have time to search for it. It's not that I wouldn't listen to that, because I do listen to that, but I spend like 12, 15 hours a day just editing. I mean, a 45-minute video takes me 3.5 hours to bleep out words that people shouldn't be saying on YouTube, or putting up the artwork that has to match up with what I'm doing. Then you got to save that stuff. Then I got to upload it to my Google Drive. Then from there, you got to put it on your portable drive. And then you got to share it all around. On top of that, I got like 35 hours worth of videos I need to do that for. So that just eats up all my time. I'm not complaining whatsoever, but I don't feel like I'd be doing the people I'm trying to help justice or my thread justice if I spread myself thinner than I already have.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And I think that's, it was kind of eating my lunch. And that's why we started doing live shows, because I don't have to edit them. And because it, like you said, it eats your lunch, and I couldn't do it. For the amount of things that we do, I couldn't do it. But you're almost monetized. So
thank you. No, I appreciate you. I am trying to condense some of my podcasts. If people do notice, I'm trying to get a lot of my hosts together, which actually, before I linked up with y'all, I had 2 of my hosts sitting down with each other, which is great because honestly, I think I said maybe 2 minutes worth of speaking in that episode, which is excellent though, because that's what I would prefer. I hear my voice enough, meaning if I wanted to just consistently talk, I wouldn't have guests and things and a supporting cast, so that will also though open up a little bit more time for me to edit. And as much as it stinks, you are pretty much your own self-promotion aspect too, meaning if the algorithm hasn't picked you up, you got to do all that dirty work and find like the Reddit threads that will let you share your stuff around where they don't troll you or ban you. And then you got to, now Facebook's making it hard because they don't want YouTube stuff up on there, which is why you see like those links that are unclickable. And then in the comment section, you can put your links up. But when you're in like 35 different groups, you got to click back and forth. So, I mean, again, just stuff like that. No complaints here. I mean, this is stuff I signed up for. I enjoy it. I'm just saying you are more than just a content creator until, you get sponsors or the algorithm picks you up. You're legit your own producer, your own director, your own marketer, and yeah, my own editor too.
Yeah. I just realized that today, I'm like, how many platforms are we trying to get on? I'm like, we got Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, I'm like, I was searching through Reddit, and I'm like, don't we have an account on here? And I'm like, we don't need another account because because there's so many that you have to throw out there and hope like people bite.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to keep up with it all. It gets to the point, and Facebook has just really completely let us down lately. So I don't know how much more time I'm going to spend on that. But
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. So we were talking, you and I recorded an episode for your show earlier this week about an incident in Twin Falls with a Dogman and in the canyon, in the Snake River Canyon. And I found it really, really fascinating. And so you're part of the North American Dogman Project, right?
Yes, just
And
like you, and I believe Dirty is too, correct, man?
yeah,
I am.
yes, and we have different state chapters. So if things is, yeah, Susie said Facebook is too old for people now, and true. But we have the Idaho chapter page, and then you have the main page, and I'm not sure what's going on with the California page, but there are different chapters, different state pages out there. If you guys are on Facebook, there's just not a lot of Facebook. Like Susie said, Facebook's too old for people now. I mean, it's there, but it gets ugly quick. People get ugly quick. So but uh on that with the North American Dogman Project, right? So how many sightings do you know how many sightings like nationally we have? Are you there?
I'm here. That is a
Okay.
very great question right there. And I still didn't fully respond to your setup that I did tell you in the text looks great. So I'm glad y'all were able to get the good old cameras and everything cranking, because I can relate how technology can be frustrating. I don't get too frustrated, meaning unless it's doing something I can't control, like just my laptop continuously crashing. Yet if I have to figure out something, I don't get upset. I just go in and click around and I'll get it. But some people act like they're gonna, I don't know, just remove themselves into outer space or something by just pushing buttons in an app, right? So last night, one of my hosts and guests, geez, I couldn't get him on through Skype. I couldn't get him on through the other option. So then I had to go in and clear out stuff on my StreamYard, which is what I'll be using, but it's already filled up. And so I'm like, oh no, it's not as hard. Copy and paste the link. Yet I do understand, the trials and errors that you had to go through. It's a little bit different, meaning you understand how everything operates, but sometimes technology just isn't properly syncing up. So yeah, frustration, but it looks good. Nice job.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But so Kenny, on the Dogman, do you know how many sightings we have like nationally recorded with this organization?
We pull up the good old album in my phone here. See, this is why it's beautiful to keep the phone a little bit free while you're doing other stuff here. Pull open yes, I did make a bunch of different charts here that talk about some of the potential nightmare fuel things you asked for. Well, obviously it's going to fluctuate a little bit number wise, but I'm going to read off some of the ones that Jody, myself, and others that work with the NADP have got. So this is going to be at a percentage of 100, and this is broken down particularly by occupation. So 67% of sightings are by civilians, which makes sense. Then you have 11% military, meaning, again, makes sense. In different levels, they could be told not to speak. They could be occupied in training, not see it as much, not have as much time in the area. Okay, makes sense. And then 22% are by law enforcement, which shows you a little bit. You would think that it might not be, the percentage of being told not to say something. The military probably just isn't in necessarily areas consistently enough unless they're working on a project. But the average Marine or Navy member is not going to be potentially in the LBL all the time. So those all right there make perfect sense. And then this next chart, we break it down into seasons. So in spring, you have 17% of sightings. You have summer, 44%, which would make sense. Everything likes to be out for the most part in the sun. if we are talking about something that's physical, I mean, I don't think paranormal cares about that. Then fall, 22%, and winter is at 17%. Before I dive into the next one right there, those are some of the better analytics we have. But keep in mind, obviously, some of that's going to fluctuate per year. Maybe you get less civilians and a little bit more, police. But that seems to be the average we've been working with.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so the law enforcement, do you think it's like park rangers?
Yeah, I would say so again, because obviously, great question. The majority of patrol officers, right, that are working, say, in the cities like Boston, they're not
Right.
going to have any sort of potential interaction with that. So keep in mind now when we're adding that into the analytics, we're talking about, I don't know the exact percentage, but a large percentage of the police force is probably inner city or city based, correct? Unless you start diving into sheriffs and stuff. But I believe there's more inner police members than there are sheriffs and things. Again, I don't know the inner works of all of this yet. After deducting all of that, yeah, then what do you have left? You got what, state troopers that are on highways and things that sure they could potentially be patrolling later at night. They travel a larger area like a sheriff. Yeah, they could see something. And then, yeah, it'd have to be forest rangers, or not necessarily just the park rangers, but employees, maybe people that are sent to go change, the signs or such. So yeah, that's a very valid and interesting question right there for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say define law enforcement.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you have to put them in a category. They're not necessarily the civilians because they're on the job, right? So you put them into a category. So, but what I find interesting too with a lot of these sightings is we've talked a lot about on your show, but how can these creatures exist and move around without being noticed so much? And we've explored the possibility of them using cave systems to get around we have a lot of caves and old mines. Obviously the mines are connected, but a lot of cave systems are very connected, and a great place to hide and live in if they're indeed like a critter that doesn't have a paranormal aspect. Then how are they moving around? And that's one of the theories that we've kind of come up with. Somebody, I don't know, can you can you see the screen at all on your end?
Yes. Now I can, because like I said, I still feel bad, Cammie, because honestly I couldn't see anything. I could hear y'all. My browser wasn't open. I'm hashtag first world technological issues right now, but I can't complain because the Chromebook's what I have to work with. Yet to Colleen and Kelly, I sent you both a text. I don't know if you can pull that up. That might be easier just to pull up for the audience instead of trying to read through all of it. But that's broken down also into time frames when we've gathered reports.
Oh,
yeah, it's beautiful stuff right there. And as I'm looking down now to the
I think I can share this to my email, and then I can share it on our screen so that people can see it.
That way Cammie can see it too. Yeah, exactly. Because
I'm trying to
have her info to send it over.
Trying to share to my email is just not always working, so I don't. But I'll try. But yeah, it's really. Oh, here we go. Good. Okay, so I will be able to share in just a second. So give me a second here. But
so Danielle, I think the majority of the Idaho stuff I do hear at the moment comes from definitely either Colleen or Dirty Birdie. I do get emails and things, but I don't ever air any of the emails without sending them to my team first to then per se have, Colleen or Kelly look into that in the area. So at the moment, unless I pulled open my book, I believe Colleen and Kelly have probably heard all the stuff I have from Idaho.
I did. I heard this story and you asked me about it. And I said, yeah, I know the story. Boom. I'll even go out and get a picture of the gravestones.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, that's the story that Danielle is talking about? Okay. Yep.
Yes, Kelly.
And here's the slide that Kenny just shared with us about the sightings. It's pretty fascinating. So when you look at this, looks like the majority of the sightings are at night.
Yeah, like 9 p.m. That feels kind of early.
Yeah, 9 to midnight. So that's kind of interesting because you would think that most people who are out in the woods are not out in the woods between 9 and midnight, unless they're camping, and that could be. So
you got to think about in the summertime too. 9 p.m. It's still 70, 80 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live. I mean, here it's like it gets 60 around midnight.
Yeah.
And I mean,
And
you're not freezing, but you can still move around.
No, but I don't think unless you're camping, right, and you're hanging out with your friends, most people are not in the woods trouncing around at night. I mean, most of the time. I think especially in grizzly country, right? I mean, you tend to not do that because you want to be able to see what's around you. But so I wonder how these sightings are coming up so high, unless it is camping.
Beautiful questions, because I still have to answer some of the other ones you have asked me. I sent you 2 more images that have recently been submitted to us. The top one is from Jody. I have not had a chance yet to ask him when this occurred. I do know he claims this thing was throwing sticks at him that were quite large. The one down below now is from 1885, not the image, but the area where originally the Winstead Wildman was brought up in Connecticut. And JJ Messenger, one of my good buddies and hosts, he had a camera that was not fancy at all. It's 2005 here, way before AI. Fast forward, I do all the images. He's kind of not the best technological guy either. I love you, man. Yet when he took this, didn't see this, what we think looks honestly like some sort of manifestation with the Dogman, which ties into the question you had previously asked what I think of this. The thing is, too, if this was steam or fog on the camera lens, it would have continued to have been seen in numerous pictures, which it wasn't. Also, when he took the photo itself, picture now this entity not being there. It was just this graveyard, okay? Yet he goes back and looks at this image and sees the manifestation that looks to be like a dog or gargoyle. Super bizarre stuff. And the image you're showing right now is from Jody. Yes, so creepy right there. Again, I mean, it's from his cell phone, though. Keep in mind, like you had said a lot of times, cell phones are great, but you can't zoom in the best. And I mean, if you're in distress, you don't always just get the best images. We'll talk about that another time. Yet to think now, hey, is this paranormal or is it physical? Honestly, I am so baffled now, like I said to both of y'all before, because Cammie, this is the first time speaking to you. I don't have any sort of clarity that I would wish I have at this point in time, except I have a better squad, including y'all, and a better lineup in my brain to understand things. I'm right back at the starting point, though, in regards, because we have some things that solidify what we speak about: dire wolves, hyenas, misidentification, large primitive apes that should have been extinct potentially, but not really, like the Dinopithecus, the Theropithecus. Yes, I believe all that. But then we have things like we're talking about right here, like this image, or people claiming the tracks just disappear in the middle of a cornfield where there's no structures for it to have jumped up on, no trees, and, it just vanishes. What is this, Halo? Does it not have enough plasma at this point in time to manifest itself? So the Covenant just shows up for a second and you see it glitch out, then it's gone. I mean, there's just so many more questions now, because you have people that claim, even with Bigfoot, orbs and UFOs and being potentially transparent. Sure, could this just be, I don't know. It could be. I'm not a camera expert. Yes, I deal with graphics design and I know how to operate cameras, yet I don't know all the faulty issues that could happen with cameras, etc. I don't know. I know that is very interesting, though, and we've had people claim these manifestations just occur like this. One guy claimed it came through his wall and started to manifest into like some sort of Dogman. Could it be something like that? No clue. Rest in peace, Linda Godfrey. You got her referring to that bright blue one that she personally didn't see, but someone said was walking down the side of Bray Road, where it looked like it was almost plasma. It was here, wasn't here. Again, I mean, Linda, in my opinion, is arguably the greatest researcher on the Dogman topic. She didn't even have a full answer for it. Again, she also had never had a personal experience with it. She was just going off reporting. Yeah, she was just as confused seemingly in regards of where does it fall? Paranormal, extraterrestrial, or is it flesh and blood? Baffling. I don't know.
Yeah.
So when you like if you are to encounter per se Dogman, is it going to be more like this last picture that we saw where it's kind of almost like ghostly, or is it like a American Werewolf in London situation where it's like full on solid being?
Boom.
I guess, if that makes
Great
sense.
question. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Personally, again, I like how you brought up the American Werewolf in London. That would be a depiction to me of a skinwalker, really he or she that walks on all fours. You know, it's just like a giant wolf, okay? A werewolf, I guess, would be like the dog soldiers, if you've ever seen that, you know, where they're up and down, the crazy elongated arms. Yet, all right, like I just previously stated, though, I still have no idea. The research I do, though, with the cynocephali and such, okay, those were back in 290 BC. These dog beings, some were reported to have full canine bodies, others just had canine-like heads, some had human-like legs, others had, you know, canine-like legs. They didn't seem to be magical whatsoever, according to Alexander the Great and Herodotus, meaning, yeah, they were very hellacious warriors that they would prefer to have had on their side instead of fighting against them. Yet they were unalived by steel, like swords and things. And I mean, they would come down from the mountains to trade with people. Okay, so if you were paranormal, wouldn't you just do like a flash step, like a vampire from True Blood to come down from the mountains? Why the heck you walking all the way down from the caves and taking days? Also, they had to eat. One of the rewards for them were harvesting the fallen on the battlefield that they would consume. That right there is a physical being to me, that sounds like, meaning Alexander the Great and Herodotus were not dummies. They would definitely have been able to tell if this was any of us wearing wolf skins or animal skins, if you're that close to hand somebody a sword or to trade with you. I mean, we're talking about cultures, whether what they did was correct in certain aspects, that's for another day, but we're talking about advancements and intellectual aspects. They were pretty civilized and advanced for their time frames. Okay, they were well aware of what they were looking at. Numerous encounters, too. I mean, this isn't a one-time thing. All right. That is what I would like to think and say is the Dogman when people are referring to that. All right. They, in my opinion, are probably talking about this ancient race of canine-like people called the cynocephali, which were, you know, flesh and blood. All right. And then now when you're diving into like per se werewolves and such, I would think a werewolf with the whole evil cult things and how you have to manifest it. I mean, when you have like Heinrich Himmler and the SS all going to Castle Hauska or Huska, where we've covered that before, this castle that's just built to pretty much hold something in, right? They claim they would summon these things that would smell like sulfur, and they would come up and have half animal heads and be like all demented looking. Okay, that would seem more like that picture maybe JJ has of something having to potentially manifest itself, right? Or that could also maybe fall into the line of a skinwalker a little bit too, because we've been covering that, meaning if you stay true to that lore, it's he or she that walks on all fours, and you have to be able to get the pelt of the animal you are taking your shape of. All right. So if a werewolf needs to be manifested per se, right, and it's a demon or something along the lines of that, I don't really see a individual being able to gain its pelt, correct, to ever, you know, per se change into that. So that's the big difference. All right. A lot of people think with the skinwalkers, they're turning into a werewolf and such. They're not. They're turning into coyotes a lot of the times, or, you know, giant wolves per se, but they're still in the animal form. Yet, what if, though, they were able to kind of, I'm going to use a vampire term because I don't know how to use this, glamour whoever's seeing them to take on the image of what they want you to see. Meaning there's been cases where these military personnel claim they saw an old indigenous man talking behind them, and they thought maybe he was mentally ill or confused because they didn't understand why the hell he was around this area where they were patrolling. They then tell him to stay where he is, and they both claim he all of a sudden turned into like this standing up like coyote. All right, did he really do that? Because we've spoken about this before. The trauma it would take for the human body to be able to transform fully would be traumatic as heck. Meaning, all right, look at how our brains are. For our skulls to all crush in and push your brain all around and every blood vessel inside of you blowing all up, that doesn't seem like something a person could survive. But now if you are glamoring somebody and making them think this is what they're seeing, I could actually probably buy into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I remember the glamour spell. Yep, from D&D and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Fey tales.
It's really interesting, and like Susie says, you'd think more of the reports would come from hunters using four-wheelers, horses, traveling on foot, starting 2 hours before dawn because you're out there trying to get, you know, a line on where a herd is if you're taking elk or something. But it's I don't know that they have enough time in the forest or, you know, where they are. I mean, hunters usually they have a very small window. But when you're talking about people who maybe work for the Forest Service or BLM or the USGS or whatever, and they're out in the field a lot, not every day, but a lot, and they probably have more of a just for sheer numbers of hours that they're out there is probably why their numbers are so big. But we had a question that came in earlier from Mad Max, and they said, I never heard of the Dogman until I moved here. Is it all over? And certainly we have seems to be hotspots. And one of them you talked about was the LBL. And if people don't understand what that language is, do you want to go ahead and explain that?
Yes. And would you like me to also send you a good old chart that we made from that area that I dubbed Werewolf Square because of my good old buddies, Small Town Monsters? I love Heather and Aaron. I always collaborate with them, but because Aaron's got the Dogman triangle, I was like, because him and I obviously talk about how there is big differences here, all right, between werewolves and dogmen, but Dogman Square, Werewolf Square. Well, obviously, Werewolf Square sounded cooler, which was a big reason why I ended up using that term. But yes, inside of good old Werewolf Square, we have what we call the LBL. I personally am not big on, I wouldn't call that slang, but laziness, the land between the lakes. All right. There's the same thing around here with some stores, Cumberland Farms. Everyone's like, oh, Cumbies. Or Patriots, Pats. No. So I always refer to it as the land between the lakes. Yeah, it's an area in Kentucky that is located pretty much right near Tennessee, but that is separated by a lake that, you know, connects both areas. And you have a ton of people that are reporting seeing sights down there, sightings of these things. And Colleen, yes, I just sent you some more images. And again, see, that's another reason I don't like to go live because I'm such a stickler. In a perfect world, I could sit here and talk for 3 hours without slurring my words or messing my words up. Every time I don't pronunciate something correctly, it drives me bananas, especially when I'm going back through and editing. I can always clean it up. Yeah, yes, it happens, I suppose.
Wasn't there a really bad attack out there on the LBL, and that's what kind of put it on the map?
Great question. That, in my opinion, I don't buy into that one, but But I do buy into the one that did occur there with this gentleman named Glenn, who worked for the Kentucky Fish and Game. He stocked the LBL lake with fish and was out fishing pretty early in the morning. Came across a younger couple that, well, was waving at him. And as he came in a little bit closer, was waving to them. He claimed he saw a massive hyena looking thing that was crouched down coming up behind them. He tried to warn them that this was occurring. They seemingly thought he was just trying to be friendly and say hello. Well, this thing ripped them both apart and consumed them. He sped off. This was pretty much his last, more or less, confession. He had stage 4 cancer, unfortunately, and sat down with Jody. Jody was able to verify that he did work for Kentucky Fish and Game, because on the paycheck stubs and things, there were certain little numbers that you could match into showing that he was a government paid official in that regards. That one we believe. I do know there are some other people in the North American Dogman Project that tend to buy into the initial, or right around that time, the whole LBL massacre. Again, I need to just say this as a note to everybody. Just because I'm part of the North American Dogman Project doesn't mean everybody else in there has the same opinions I do. I usually have this disclaimer up in my video because, well, I did have to be spoken to, meaning somebody thought that everyone felt the same way. So no. All right. Same thing with Colleen and Kelly and everybody else that works with me, my science team. Just because I am making an opinion about something, yeah, a lot of times, almost all the times, they're on board, which is why I'm saying what I'm saying. But in this instance with the LBL massacre, I don't think it occurred. Yet the reason I needed to say that is because there are other people I love and adore that do think it occurred.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. So I'm going through and I'm sharing some of the photos that you've been sending me. And this, just to give you an idea of the footprint. And remember, so the other night I was telling you about the story from over in Twin Falls. This is the footprint in the snow. I need to send you that picture so that you have
Please
it.
do.
Because it is very, very much this, but seems to be a little bit larger. But it had that triangular shape with a very narrow.
Yes.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying too now about, all right, this is what I mean to everybody that's listening. If something is going to be remotely comfortable bipedal, they have to have feet like that. Okay. Just like a baboon would, or just like what we looked at. A canine could not weigh and be the size that some of these things have reported with a canine foot. Okay. A canine foot is not meant to stand up bipedally. Your dog can lean up against you and kind of hop around for a second on its two legs, but their feet aren't very articulated. All right. Like my pet squirrel, same thing. Yes, she doesn't have werewolf feet, but her feet are huge. All right. Her feet are like the size of my Bic lighter. Okay. And she can stand right up and dance all around and be on 2 feet quite comfortably. I mean, she's using her hands to eat nuts and things I'm feeding her. This is what I mean about if something is going to be quadrupedal and bipedal and have longer arms, per se, like a ape or baboon that drag down a little bit, it's got to have feet like that, meaning that almost looks to be the shape of how our feet look right here. And I mean, we got handprints too that have been submitted where you can see the claws. And, you can't tell if it was holding something or maybe it potentially had an extra digit. Yeah, so crazy.
It is amazing. Also, we had a couple of questions. So Danielle says that I have a theory on werewolf dogman, that it's both paranormal and government and scientific. Like it's kind of a mix. Maybe something that was created maybe by the government. I don't know.
Yep.
And then Blair says, so Cain, okay, Canaanite, ID, Canine, was he a dog man? Seth was the first in Adam's image. What did Abel look like? I'm not sure. I am the wrong person to ask about anything like that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm super spiritual. I'm not religious. We do have religious individuals such as Dennis Carroll that dives with the paranormal with us as well. He used to be a minister, so he helps me understand some things such as St. Christopher, but when it comes to, like I said, aspects of understanding that, I'm with Colleen. I don't know anything really about that. I mean, I know some of the references per se, like I said, with St. Christopher or Lilith with the vampires and werewolves, because it kind of, has come across with what we're diving into. And yeah, this is pretty much the chart too I like to roll with some of the depictions of what people are seeing and describing. Pretty bizarre stuff. And the type 5 reminds me a lot of like the Gugway too. And
yeah,
also
I was going to say Gugway.
Yeah. Bizarre,
so the
man.
type 4 that Verzilla is very similar to what the gentleman in Twin Falls saw.
Really? That's huge down in Kentucky. Actually, a woman that I would love to get on, but I have been very unsuccessful at contacting her. Afton Fairchild covered that. I don't know. I think it might have been maybe 10 years ago where this was occurring down in Kentucky. Yeah, but that was reports that people were seeing Bearilla, meaning it didn't look like a bear, but it didn't necessarily look fully like the other versions of those werewolf things we were just showing up there. Bizarre.
Fascinating stuff. I don't know. I mean, I think there's something out there. People are definitely seeing something. Danielle says, I feel that the older werewolf lore does tie back into the paranormal side, particularly that it was, interdimensional, right? And being that it came through some kind of portal. And we did have this discussion just a couple of nights ago that portals, according to astrophysicists, that when we go down to the Phenomenon and they're there, I mean, these people are really truly astrophysicists. They've worked for NASA. They continue to work for NASA. And they absolutely say that countries all over are trying to weaponize, that they understand that portals exist. We just don't understand how to use them yet, how to actually find them, how to lock onto them. But they're trying because they want to weaponize them. So scary thought, but maybe these creatures have figured it out. I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that reminds me of the case that came out of Maine, where those werewolves showed up. Those dogmen / werewolves showed up on that guy's farm with him and his wife and his daughter trapped in the house. But before that, they reported hearing something like a large rusty shipping container opening. And for whatever reason, some of these dogman stories I hear about, they report hearing something like a metal container door opening, like that old, and then these things are everywhere.
Yeah, and it could be.
So is that the sound of a portal opening, or I don't know?
Who knows? I'm hoping that they present more information this year at Phenomenon on it, because I know they continue to research it. It's fascinating and a terrifying thought if countries are trying to figure out how to weaponize them. It's one thing to have a cryptid moving back and forth through a portal. It's a whole other thing to have China weaponizing a portal against us. You know what I'm saying? So I hope we get a handle on it soon.
Yeah, perish the thought. I mean, the most horrific image just popped in my mind about just all of a sudden, just Rick and Morty green portal pops open, 6 dogmen jump out and just terrorize people in a park or something like that.
Rick and Morty.
All right. Honestly, though, go ahead, Colleen.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say also, with some of the research I've been doing lately, I do definitely always try to kudos people when they get things correct, because I'm a big stickler on how a lot of times people get reports, meaning if someone is flying by in a car and caused a huge crash, stole from stores, whatever. You have all these different witnesses that get those things, kind of mixed up, different color car, hat on, whatever. But the other day, you had 4 witnesses that, reported something identically correct to the police, who were successful at getting the suspect. So that was one thing I just wanted to enunciate, meaning for every time I show where people are incorrect, I do make sure to show that, yes, sometimes people are very spot on. It is not the large majority, though, unfortunately. Here's another example when I was covering the Jabba Fofi and also diving into, on my free time, some of the large crocodiles that have been reported from certain areas in the Congo, where these crocodiles were 20, 25, 27, 40 feet. All right, you have people that are extremely brilliant and that, well, yes, obviously found interest in this topic and thought it was real enough for them to go over there. When they did arrive in these areas, people said, hey, these giant crocodiles are big, like 600 to like 1,000 yard deep, long tunnels and things. Well, that would be a big waste of energy, okay? So they start going over and trying to figure this out. Well, the conclusion was, yes, they were seeing very large crocodiles, not 25 foot, not 30 foot, 19, 20 feet, meaning their estimation aspects compared to how we use are extremely off, meaning a lot of people need to understand that in, per se, a lot of these cultures, they are not necessarily using the same metric systems that we use here, meaning like centimeters and such. They could also be using a lot of guesstimation aspects, meaning if they built this boat, per se, so many times, they don't necessarily need to know the exact range of millimeters or feet, meaning they've done it so many times as second nature. So when you see something, people in general are not always great at getting estimations in a culture where it's more prevalent, meaning, when you grow up in that, people get these things incorrect all the time in the ocean where you don't have other guidelines. You're like, oh, that was a 30-foot shark. No, it was a 18-foot shark. Yes, that's still a large shark, but it was not 30 feet. So it makes me really kind of think also the Jabba Fofi, where it's supposedly got like a 5-foot length of its spindles and its feet. It's a giant spider that would go up to the average woman in America's shoulder. Okay, that would be cool. Yet again, now with them, kind of getting the skewed aspects of the crocodile off, that makes me think too, yeah, they probably are seeing a large spider, but are they really seeing a spider per se that large? Because again, they aren't really the best at giving you a correct assessment. They were showing them, for example, things that they knew were a certain size and asking them how big they thought it was, and they were getting it very skewed as well. So interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the slide up right now of the spider and how do you call it? Jabba Fofi?
Yes. So that's what I mean. That would be cool. Obviously nightmare fuel. Yet, like I just said, to be realistic though, there's never been a spider that large in the history of evolution yet. I mean, again, we haven't found everything. We probably never will, but there's a lot of brilliant people out there that spend all their time understanding spiders that seem to think the largest possible spider is the Goliath bird eater, which is alive now. Yes, it doesn't always consume birds. Again, people have seen that a very minimal amount of times. Or the huntsman. I don't know. Again, what the heck? Because some people have said it was a coconut crab, which is why I put that up there as well. But coconut crabs aren't fast. People claim these things are fast. Again, we're talking about people that live in the jungle all the time. Even if they might be a little bit off of their estimation sizes, they got to know the difference between a tarantula and a Jabba Fofi. All right. So, I'm definitely supporting them in the aspect of they're not dummies. They know what they're seeing. They just don't use a modern day necessarily metric system like we do, is all I'm saying. So their estimations could be off a little bit. But per se, with their knowledge of the area, they know what a pig is. They know what an anaconda is. All right. They know what all the other spiders are. Why are they saying this dang huge spider exists? I don't know. Bizarre. But it makes me wonder if that happens here with a lot of the Dogman stuff too, because I'm going to use another example when those large black cats were being spotted. Yes, the UK has admitted now there are large predatory cats, but a lot of those videos coming in, Monster Quest did a great job of breaking it down. They were house cats. They were a large black house cat, but people were like, oh, that's a huge cat. And now we're talking about an area of a modern metric system. So we're just not very good at that in general, unless you have something sitting right beside you that you know, all right, my foot is what, 11 and a half, and then you put a lighter down or something. I don't know.
Yeah, scale is really important, and I try to tell everybody, if you're out in the field and you see something, and anything, a stick of gum is a known it's a known length, right? A pin, something that you can put down for measurement next to a footprint, next to something, a known thing, a cell phone. Most people they're usually a known size, because you know what your phone is, so something, put it down there. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about too was the amount of Dogman sightings that we have around cave systems, and the amount of people who go missing around cave systems.
Yes. Great.
Coincidence? Let me share this.
Not big into coincidences, that's for sure.
Right. So if you look at the top image, is the amount of people who've gone missing that are mysterious cases, right? Not just somebody who just wants to leave, and then these are the limestone caves in the US, and then do the overlay, right? So could these people be going missing because they're being hunted?
Wow.
I don't know.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
You brought that up too. I'm going to send you something right now because I don't own the rights to this, which is why I don't show it, but you just showed that, so I'm going to show you this. I took all of our sightings and put those over top of those two maps right there with the Dogman sightings, and they all line up very well, creepily. That is for sure.
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So I will send this. I have to send this to my email, folks. Forgive me just a second.
I should have just done that.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Oh, yeah, takes it a minute. Okay. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, and that the things line up so well. Yeah, so let me get to this image.
The thing with that, which is really interesting as well. Well, I have a couple different philosophies on that, meaning I think, yes, cave systems can be used to an extent, meaning you have the cave bear that spent around 80 to 90% of its time in there. Same thing with cave hyenas. Yet, question is, how far were they going? Meaning, if we're going to play by the rules of something needs to breathe and eat and actually act like we do, meaning like when you see these things eating, drinking water, well, you and I and Cammy can't just go inside of a abandoned cave system that used to be a mine per se without doing proper research, because there's all kinds of natural fumes and also things that are toxic to us, like Kelly was talking about before, some intelligent individual that tried to boil some chicken in one of the heating pits in Yellowstone. Well, that water is rancid, it's toxic, it's poisonous. All right, so if something was just to travel all around in the cave systems, it would have to be at a level where they're not going to run into that, meaning even if it's a coyote, if it's myself, if it's a hamster or a deer or a baboon or a dogman that has to breathe and stuff, it would still succumb to the toxic gases that are just naturally produced at some points, you know? So that's very bizarre, yet I do think it can still come into play.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be fascinating to actually overlay the slide that you just made with the Dogman sightings over the top of this slide with all of the limestone caves and missing people.
Right?
Yeah, because I'm willing to bet that some of these I'm willing to bet that a lot of people that have gone missing, you're not going to find, because their bodies have been consumed,
Mhm.
and their skeleton remains are probably in a cave somewhere, whether
Yes.
that's bear or dogman or Bigfoot or whatever, cougar. They're being taken. And
Agreed.
I mean, it's pretty easy prey when you think about it. Mad Max said, what if it has evolved to a point that underground gases don't bother it? Maybe. I don't know. The gases, so yeah. There are a lot of gases in that's why I always tell people to be really, really careful when you're exploring.
Yes.
And then
You know what I'm
also
talking about.
yeah, because I work in the mining industry, so you have to be very careful with these systems because you don't know. Also, depending on what the deposit was that they mined,
Yep.
acid mine drainage will literally take the skin right off you.
Yep.
So if you fall into a pit of some of this AMD, acid mine drainage from some of these systems, you're not going to make it out alive.
Mercury
So
too. A lot of those miners used to use mercury to try to,
mercury to
get
amalgamate the
gold.
gold.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. There's so much bad stuff. I mean, even if you're a grizzly bear, mercury is still going to be fatal to you, just like it'd be fatal to the rest of us at a certain level. Yeah.
Right.
Remind me what cobalt is again. Isn't that toxic if you smelt it?
Yeah, it's another one of those things. I wish we had William here, our geologist, because he knows a ton about that. But Colleen's really good too with this.
Yeah, cobalt. You don't want to get. There's a lot of stuff that you don't want to get around out here. We have phosphate mines, and there's natural uranium. It breaks down into, I think it's at radon 224, which breaks down into or radium, it breaks down to radon. So you have all of this stuff going on in these systems, and you just want to it's fine to go play around, but you don't want to get yourself exposed to something that's going to make you sick or permanently not alive. So you got to be really careful. But if these creatures may have evolved, I doubt that they're going to evolve to the point where they're not going to be harmed by that kind of stuff. I think more than likely they probably have figured out where they can go and where they can go safely. And just by trial and error, like you enter a cave system and you get a blast of something in your face, you're just going to back out pretty quick. So that's probably more than likely what's happening here. But Susie says limestone is known to be energetically and spiritually conductive. So could some kind of portal type thing? Yeah, there could be something related.
Yeah, the
to
ley
that.
lines, correct? That was something else
Yeah.
William was breaking down for me in certain areas. There's ley
Mhm.
lines that go through,
Yeah.
which are natural energies. I love how you brought that up because that's something else I try to tell people. Like one time someone got mad at me because we came to the conclusion that he was in an area where, yes, there was magnetic poles naturally, meaning there are things that would cause your cell phone to not function correctly or cause a compass to buzz out for a second. I mean, I've seen Survivor Man, Cody Lundeen, they all explain it. We explained that to this gentleman that we don't think he was being zapped like he thought. We just think in this particular area there was a magnetic pull. Wait, what, Starfox? Right. Yes. There is a gentleman that built this cool little house with some of the most heavy rocks in the world, right? And somehow he was able to do this by himself. Why? Because of the magnetic pull. There's videos of little kids that are opening these huge rock doors, but because it's got a natural pull on it, meaning we could sit here, if there's a magnetic pull that is going to start like a magnetic pulling something, we could push something very large and get it to move. So yes, as we tried to explain it to this gentleman, he just thought we were full of baloney and that he got zapped and went through a portal. And maybe he really did, but we know for a fact in this area there were mineral supplements that would cause distortion in electronics.
Right. Well, also, I flew my whole life in the Sierra Nevadas with my dad, and there's magnetite up in the granite up there, and magnetite makes your compasses spin, which is why Death Valley, not Death Valley, but Desolation Desolation Wilderness has a lot of people that
Yes.
go missing because they're relying on their compass, and their compass starts spinning, and you got to be really careful because sometimes in natural granite you'll have some of this stuff, and it's going to mess with your compasses and messed with our electronics in the aircraft. So you be careful with it. So
Preach. I love it because there's a scientist telling you this. Yes, I am just a journalist. All right. I actually got some shade the other day too because, well, the Bermuda Triangle. Interesting. Everything that occurs, right? Yet logically, there are methane deposits underneath the Bermuda Triangle. All right. And there's cracks and frays in the bottom of the ocean. So, what is going to happen when you have a combustible engine, whether it's a boat or an airplane, that goes over immediately a big ball of methane? Poof, you no longer exist.
well,
Well,
that
when
or you're no longer buoyant or
yes,
airworthy. It sucks you right down.
yes.
Yeah.
So, could
Yeah.
something extraterrestrial based or anything else be occurring there? Yes, but logically, could something such as a methane deposit that happens also be causing this, just like you said with the people getting confused with the compasses and stuff? Yes, it could be paranormal, extraterrestrial, but a lot of it is natural. That's all I'm just trying to tell people. Is just try to be logical on something, as well as stepping outside the box is good, but you just got to keep yourself grounded too, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been a fabulous discussion. Thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend. And I hope that everybody in the audience enjoyed it. Go to his YouTube channel. We've linked it in the chat. And then I'll edit the description later and make sure that we put it there as well. But he's got the most amazing content, you guys. It's just, it's fabulous. You guys need to go and check out his page and watch his videos. It's really something.
Appreciate you right there. I mean, Cammie and Kelly, do you have any questions or anything? I mean, I talk to Kelly and Colleen all the time, so I guess it'd be probably more presented for you.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now. No, my questions usually come at like 3 a.m. after we talk, and I'm like, oh.
Well, you got my number, bro. So
yeah. Well, thanks everybody.
We're learned a ton of new stuff, so thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cammie is so sick. She's hanging in there.
I've just been dying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to let her get some rest. We'll go ahead and sign off for the night. You guys go back to our page, check out our farm cam. We'll be streaming it. Go to Kenny's page, Midnight Lycanthropy. It's just the body of work that he does all the time is so amazing. You guys, there's always something for everybody to listen to and stream. It's really, really good. So
appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. And Kenny, hang on. We're going to sign off, and it might kick you off stage, but we'll bring you right back.
Yeah, of course.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.